Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Last time, when we left off, we talked about how conventions were taking the vaccine thing very seriously and had to dismember a few people because they were basically talking about forging vaccine cards to try to use as evidence of being vaccinated for upcoming conventions as they start to hold their gatherings again. So, at the end of that video, I did discuss that one of those individuals who is basically dismembered by Denver was also dismembered by Texas Furry Fiesta, but for an entirely different reason in Texas Furry Fiesta's case. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Basically, to summarize, what you say on the internet can and will be used against you by convention boards. That much is. It's not the first time that kind of thing has ever happened, but this is the first time where a direct threat was not made to a convention, and the convention decided to remove a person or dismember a person or not allow them to be a member at the convention or attendee because of words they said on the internet that are not directly related to a threat against the convention. Obviously, if a person makes a threat against people or the attendees or individuals or things like that at the in that sense, then they can be basically removed because of harassment policies and et cetera, et cetera. So, we're going to go over the individual in question. We're going to go over things that they had said on the internet, and so that people can assess, those kind of words. So that way they'll know, where the line might be drawn for certain things, so that you too may, do your due diligence in order to make sure that you don't cross those lines. Though many people might say that these lines are pretty obvious as we go over them. So, just to save face, a little disclaimer out of the way first. I will be referring to the individual in question as Racy Raccoon throughout the entire duration of the video. That is not their actual persona name. There are two major reasons that I've decided to do this instead of using their actual name. We'll go with the attention-seeking thing first, which is, people who don't like Racy Raccoon or will say, for obvious reasons as we're going to go over, believe that he may do these kind of behaviors similar to a child throwing a tantrum in front of the candy bars in the store to kind of, get the mom to pay attention to the kid, right? So the person will throw these little racy epithets in order to just draw attention to themselves and their name, because their name was very searched on Wikipedia or Wiki for over the past month. Let's just say that. Most furries probably even already know who he is. But ethically, if that's their motive, it's ethically dubious for me to share their name and do all that kind of thing. So we're just going to call him Racy Raccoon for the duration of the video. On the other hand, for the second thing, it's like, they're just seeing the worst in the person. Well, what if the person does want to get better? And that this video is referred to years or months down the line when people, look back and see what direction conventions are going in with the choices they make on, what is allowable to be banned or what not. Because this is a step in a direction for those kind of decisions. So people might look back on this and see the iterations and how, conventions made their decisions. But in the meanwhile, Racy Raccoon here might actually be trying to turn a new leaf. Maybe Racy Raccoon might actually change as a person or might actually grow as a person and leave the racy side behind him. Then, that would be me having this video here to have their name, for the unethical things that they did back here in 2021. Wouldn't be ethical in the future. So either way, if they do change or they don't change, or they don't wish to change and are just using it to troll, I'm covering my bases. Long disclaimer, but I mean, that to me is how things. I know the populist media like basically what they call social media, and mainstream media might not agree with me on that. Some people might say, well, ethically, you should tell us exactly who the person's name is so we don't run into this person. It's like, if this person doesn't change, you'll know them by their words. Because we're going to be going over some of those words and their things. So it all started. So where did it start? Well, it all started when Racy Raccoon made a tweet on his Twitter on the 26th of April, 2021, saying, "I am literally shaking right now. I got a letter in the mail from Texas Furry Fiesta stating I have been banned from the convention because of my statements on social media. Are you flopping kidding me? Because I have different viewpoints? What the hell is wrong with these people?" So that's their take on it when they received that letter. People were talking about that tweet and whatnot, and eventually the letter, which Racy Raccoon shared with a particular group of infamous people in the furry fandom that we have talked about before, leaked onto other things. So this is the letter that they had received. Forgive me for being a stickler for grammar here, so I'm going to make little interjections. But anyways, this is the letter they received from the head of security, and I won't go easy on just because you're head of security. Will you volunteer to read these things for us then, Rue? You want quality assure these things? Here, you're voluntold. You do the frickin' grammar thing. Not after the fact, Rue. I'm pre-yelling at myself because I'm gonna do it. Anyways, because I did rehearse this, and then I'm like, I gotta point out some grammatical things. So anyways, dear Racy Raccoon, creature arts and our events, comma, Texas Furry Fiesta and Texas Furry Siesta, comma, and endeavor to deliver quality events to our attendees and to keep the environment in our events safe, friendly, and fun. I'll let you get away with the Oxford. It's fine. I like the Oxford. We hold ourselves to high standards of ethical conduct to ensure our visiting attendees feel welcome. New paragraph. Those first two sentences are you introducing yourself. The second paragraph should be, this is a traditional 3-paragraph letter. The first is introducing yourself. The second is what you're informing the person of, and the third is taking the action, right? So your statements should be a new paragraph. Your statements online and social media are inconsistent with these efforts and inconsistent with our stated anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies. As such, we have determined that you will not be permitted to attend creature arts events. So, Racy Raccoon's original tweet was actually not really fully correct. He's actually banned from 2 conventions in one shot. He's banned from Fiesta and Siesta. And all the other Estas, I guess. So, effective this date, you are prohibited from entering the premises of or attending Texas Furry Fiesta at the Sheraton Dallas Hotel at the address, and Texas Furry Siesta at Hyatt Regency Dallas at the address. This prohibition remains in force indefinitely. Should you attempt to enter either event venue, we will contact law enforcement personnel to secure your expulsion. This decision is final. You may appeal in writing in 2026. So he can appeal in writing 5 years from now. So he's got 5 years to kind of keep his nose clean or try to actually make positive changes to his social media behavior, and then he can file for an appeal. So if he really wants to go back. But there are many furry conventions out there these days, so he might not even decide to bother and just kind of try to save face with other conventions and maintain memberships there. And as he tries to hopefully get better, but get better from what? Well, all right. So a lot of you right now might be pretty empathetic because he seems like he says, well, I've just been banned for words that I said and things like that, and how dare people ban people from events for words that they say because of politics or whatever. And you might feel empathy about that. But in order to kind of disperse a little bit of that empathy from Racy Raccoon, I share with you a tweet that was shared by one Casper, Spotted Casper, on the February of 18th of February 2021, where Racy Raccoon basically quote tweeted a furry musician known as Pepper Coyote, who basically reacting to the death of a conservative talk show host, Rush Limbaugh. And Pepper Coyote is a heart-bleeding leftist, very much an unapologetic socialist, Bernie bro kind of person. Didn't have any sympathy for the death of Rush Limbaugh, so he quote tweeted Rush Limbaugh's death, died in 2021 picture in February and said, "About time." Which, when controversial figures die, people tend to not, some people are going to shed tears, other people are not going to shed tears. People who are passionate about them are going to be, really emotional about it. And obviously Racy Raccoon probably really likes Rush Limbaugh because he disliked this tweet so much, he decided to quote tweet Pepper Coyote and at 3 major conventions, including the one he received that letter from, saying that he should remove Pepper Coyote from the institution. This was in February. This was 2 months prior to him actually being Racy Raccoon actually receiving the letter from Furry Fiesta indicating that they were removing him from the thing. So if Racy Raccoon is going to object that this was political and that people shouldn't be banned from conventions because of politics, then his actions here say that he doesn't believe those words. People are, will feel emotions when other people die of different, groups and different things like that all the time. If Hillary Clinton were to die or something, and some, tech roo says something like "good riddance to bad rubbish" or something. Tech roo is a Republican, he's a Republican kangaroo from the state of Wyoming, so that's being a little bit redundant. But he is from the state of Wyoming, and he's right wing. So if he made a statement, if Hillary Clinton died, saying, "Well, good riddance to her," or "good riddance to bad rubbish," and then someone quote tweeted that and sent it to a convention, social media feed to try and get them banned, then I think Racy Raccoon would have some objections to that. But this is exactly sort of what happened here. So if you keep that in mind as we move forward with this and go over some of these things. But for most people, going back to this letter, it's like, well, what kind of behaviors on social media are we talking about? Well, they're a bit racy, which is why we're calling them Racy Raccoon, right? Because their behaviors online is a bit racy. The most infamous one here comes from a thread that was back in 2015. Now I'm going to move. Not you. Don't move you. Move this image right there. It is. So I'm going to move this up here. So this is the one that many people are assuming is the tweet thread that kind of was seen as very beyond the pale, even for somebody who's white, right? I'm white. Hi, Mr. White. That is a little bit beyond the pale. So the thread was back in April of 2015, so basically 6 years ago at this point, where Racy Raccoon goes, "Is it wrong for me to feel just a little bit nervous when I'm at a Walmart at night surrounded by all black people? I'm not racist." And I realize when I quote tweet people, when I say stuff like that, it's like people who can take shit out of context. If you do that, you're going to hell. But that was quote end quote, right? And this poor Alice Fox person, this poor guy. He's like, he's doing what I call the kind of like ixnay kind of thing that sometimes people will do when they're caught up in a conversation like this, where they go, Well, oh God, what he just said was really bad. Oh, I should probably try to mitigate what happened here a little bit, because to try and get him off the topic and to try to move him in a different direction that's a little less racy. So what he was is like, he goes, well, I'd say I feel nervous whenever I'm in a Walmart late at night, no matter who I'm surrounded by. Walmart just has that effect on me. You know, trying to subtly, very, very subtly go, don't talk about black people when you're freaking saying you're scared about stuff like that. That freaking sounds racist as shit? Probably because it is racist as shit. Which we'll get into a little bit later here with the top thing here. So Racy Raccoon replies to that and accidentally triples down, and doubles down so hard that he got a heart attack from KFC sandwiches or something. Like, it's really bad. Like, he quadrupled down and had a double down on top of a double down, and it's all chicken and freaking cheese and stuff like that, and it's just, there's no bread, it's all chicken and cheese stacked on each other. So he replies and goes, just feel like they're all watching me. One more reason for me to carry a gun. And I will say this, and this is a little bit of an aside. Clip this, I guess. A gun is not a security blanket. If you're feeling fear in a situation, a gun is not going to help you feel any less afraid. Just putting that out there. You've just become a scared person to a scared person with a gun, and it would have made the situation worse. And it's like, and by the way, it's like, people are watching me. And maybe if I was carrying a gun, they wouldn't watch me so much. What? That makes no freaking logical sense. It's like, it's only freaking racist as effing balls. It's like, they're freaking, black people are just shopping just like anyone else. They're at a freaking Walmart. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Like, clearly, the thing is, like, you can have irrational fears. It's what you do with them, right? It's how you act and how you behave and how you face those fears is what really determines, how far along someone will get in life. And to use, weapons as sort of a security blanket from your fears is not going to get you much far in life, just in general. That aside, so of course that tweet thread was thrown around as probably the reason for the letter that was received, because obviously the person, it's like they're all looking at me and like is saying, well, if they're all looking at me, I need a firearm, and it just seems kind of really like, and it makes people, that kind of language obviously makes people nervous and maybe made people on the board nervous. So Racy Raccoon says in response, in quote tweeting this, says, I want to clarify again that on 4/5/15 I said something that was racist. So here we are. Well, I mean, that might be progress, right? He says 6 years later that this statement that he said that not racist is now racist. Okay, so we got that. I did not intend to make it sound like it did, which just begs the question: what did you intend it to sound like? What was your intention with this? What was your intention for these tweets? That, oh, I experienced fear, now I need a gun? Like, I don't know. Anyways, and this is my fault, and I do apologize for that, and as per forgiveness, I'm in no place to forgive you because I'm white. my forgiveness means absolutely nothing, and I'm not. And by the way, I'm not on any board. So neutral party. So like, I'm not on any board. My position or my feelings about if the apology is sincere or not is basically irrelevant in this case. So we have, like, what I said 6 years ago is not who I am today, regardless of political stances. So that last sentence, I will say, makes this a non-apology for me. And I just said, like, my forgiveness doesn't really make a difference. But the last sentence to me reads like this. It reads to me like somebody who's saying, well, people just bring this old tweet of mine up because they don't like me politically. And far too often in the modern era do we have people that use the label of politics that they gave themselves, which is just made up nonsense that human beings give themselves because of tribalism, and use it as a defense for things that they do. They go, well, I can any bad behaviors I can defend myself with because I'm a Republican, I'm a liberal, I'm a socialist, I'm a capitalist. Like, irregardless if you are Republican or not, irregardless if you are a lefty or not, irregardless of that, this was problematic. You admitted it yourself. This statement was problematic. If people are bringing it up today, it's because it's like, well, why would the convention decide to ban that? Now, by the way, also, there is the concept in the modern era where things come up from the past. People's words come up from the past. People's ideologies come up from the past when they're young and angry, right? Because people are young and angry at some points, and they grow and they mature and they get less angry over time. Sometimes they get more angry. But people get caught, right? You get stuck because you're kind of you're afraid of being seen as somebody who's a hypocrite or doubling back. I had somebody make a comment on one of my videos like, "You're just a hypocrite, Rue." I think their name was Salty Fox. I don't know I don't know why the comment wasn't really showing up. I saw it though. But, hypocrisy means nothing unless you say why somebody's a hypocrite. But you don't worry about hypocrisy so much because it's not really like, if people evolve and change their ideas over time, as long as they can make a statement like, this is what I believed back then, this is why I believed it, this is what I believe now, this is why I've rejected those old ideas that I had. Simple as that, right? That's how you make progress. That's how you move forward as a person. So the thing is like, when you go, well, that was the old me, you sometimes come off as like you don't need to change any more than you already are. Then you've changed enough. That was the old me, this is the new me, I'm perfect as I am right now, even though you're not, and you will still be changing, 5 years from now and stuff like that. It's one of those things where some people, when they read that cluster of tweets, might not have known that they were that old. And maybe they didn't know that they're that old because they did, when they read that cluster of tweets, they were like, yeah, that sounds like something that Racy Raccoon would say. That's no surprise. Oh, Racy Raccoon said that, you say? Oh, well, that's just par for the course. So then you have to question, it's like, did you actually change as much as you thought you did? And if you haven't, then how can you change more if you are trying to move away from that sort of cluster of tweets, right? If you are seeing those cluster of tweets as racist and want to move forward, how do you do it further? Because obviously there's many people out there who saw that group of tweets and didn't even realize that they were 415, present company included, right? Until somebody posted your post about it being an old thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it is an older thing, and that is accurate. But think about it like this, like, this sort of statement is not, I can change, I promise it, I swear it, right? It's not like the Saddam Hussein thing, promising Satan he'll change, in a South Park musical. This is, I have changed. Oh, I have changed. Oh, that person's just old and I'm not. And right now I'm fine, right? Like, you're not even like saying that, you're claiming that you have changed already. You're not even claiming that you will change. You're claiming that you have changed already and that you've put the effort behind you. Obviously there's going to still be effort to be had. So other situations that came up was this Vine. Now, here's the thing. Vine's been offline for about 2 years. So once again, don't know the age of this particular Vine, but it was shared by this person named Vanilla Stop Asian Hate. Vanilla, I think it is. I can't read it because unfortunately it's that gray text, and I've got like these things on. His thing says Vanilla, so I'll say Vanilla. So Vanilla said, content warning, Racy Raccoon. Since he's being talked about again, can we talk about how this totally not racist Vine he made? So I will. I'm not going to run the video because obviously the Racy Vine is Racy. So there are two characters. There's the raccoon fursuit, and there is the human that plays them, and they are done in like things. So it starts with the human who plays the character. I got like fur under my glasses. Anyway, it starts with the human playing the character, throwing a box of like fried chicken from it looks like some grocery store onto the table, like plopping it down on the table. So then his raccoon fursuit comes out from the thing, from behind a wall, and he has the raccoon character has a particular dialect. The dialect is of minstrel shows, a stereotypical black voice from minstrel shows from the 1930s. If any of you don't know what that sounds like, if you've ever seen the old Dumbo show, like the old cartoon Dumbo, crow characters, or Little Audrey, the nanny characters, the old portrayal of black folks in a sort of racially insensitive, stereotypical way that is in the modern era seen as very demeaning. So he comes out from behind the quarter and asks, and the raccoon character asks the human, "Is that chicken?" in that dialect, that to indicate that it's the 1930s portrayal of a person who's black. The human character then says, "No, raccoon, this is my chicken," but he left off the first syllable of the word raccoon. Now, for those of you who are not aware of what that signifies, is the second syllable of the word raccoon has two meanings. It is and mostly is used within southern states in usually in the old times, or raccoon. The shortening of raccoon was actually used relatively recent, but it does have dual meaning. The meaning is obviously it's a shortening for the animal raccoon, but the second syllable by itself also signifies a racially insensitive slang or epithet towards black people. And so he used that double entendre in that particular statement when he says, "No, raccoon, this is my chicken, minus the rack." So basically, so that's basically it. Like, there's a third line where the raccoon character says, no, this is my chicken," in the same minstrel show voice. And so that's basically the joke. The entire joke of the Vine was the double entendre word, for the double entendre for a raccoon and an insensitive word towards black people. That's the entire joke. And people are like, "Well, say it's funny. You're not funny." It's like you just explain the joke. That's the quickest way to kill a joke. It's all about the presentation. His presentation wasn't that great either. But I can't kill the joke. That kind of joke has been dead for like probably 50 years now. To most good, honest, moral people, that kind of humor had died like decades ago. I didn't kill the joke by explaining it. I was just a mortician giving you, giving you the autopsy. All right. So that's that. So it's not just like one-off things. It's that there's a pattern of behavior for this individual that they are, that they have certain ideals and certain things when it comes to people of different race, and in a fandom which is trying its best to promote cultural diversity and involve people of different cultures and different racial backgrounds into its fold, because you get interesting perspectives and you get interesting sort of ideas in art and things like that when you go from a large pool. You don't want to sit here. You don't want to sit here listening to kangaroos ramble all the time. You have like plenty of different people to listen to and to get news from or to get commentary from. So like to me, the diversity is a strength. It's sort of even in social world or the financial world, diversity is a strength. If you have all your money in one basket and that basket topples over, you're going to do a lot less better than somebody who has a diversified portfolio, right? Same with art and same with culture. If you could pull from a bunch of different things, then you can there's a lot more expression to be had than to try to be afraid of different cultures or be afraid of different people and use that fear as an excuse for trying to make jests or jokes about groups of people. And of course, one of the last tweets that some people might consider being a reason that the convention might have taken action is one that was made on January 7th of this year, 2021. So not an old vine, not an old thing, but a modern thing that was made in response to the Capitol riots the day afterwards. Racy Raccoon stated, "The patriots of this nation will not forget what has happened. While we have lost the battle, I promise you the war has just begun and we will win. So get ready and hold on to your seat because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Unfollow me if you want, don't care." I mean, so basically what Racy Raccoon is saying here was basically, that there's going to be some sort of civil war, civil conflict because Donald Trump had lost against Joe Biden, or Biden had stolen the election allegedly, even though he tried to prove it in court and all the courts threw it out and all this other stuff. But we're obviously not in the midst of a bumpy ride, thankfully. We are basically in a position where most people's lives are relatively still boring, probably more boring than they should be, because gosh dang, hopefully we get through this whole pandemic thing together. This whole thing. So, I mean, obviously, this is a political thing, but obviously, he's basically preying on war. He's preying on he's basically preying on war. He literally uses the word war, and furries tend not to tend to be pretty peaceful as a group. We don't like to have wars, and we don't promote wars, and we try not to promote wars. Especially over things that are dubious, such as Donald Trump winning the election. Now, of course, people are going to probably say to me, "Well, he did win the election, Rue!" And I'm like, well, then should he be president? What? What are you talking about? So, hold on to your butts here. It's the obvious question that it's like, unfollow if you want. This is going to be a bumpy ride. Question, where's the bumpy ride? Why is there no bumpy ride? I mean, Racy Raccoon here is predicting that there would be a bumpy ride. There's no bumpy ride. It's been 4 months. There's been nothing. Why? And one important question, why did if Donald Trump had the election stolen from him and he was absolutely certain that he had evidence and God on his side or whatever, why did he leave the office on January 20th? through the back door and get on the helicopter and leave and let Biden go into the White House. And do that silly little thing where he locked the doors on his way out so that they had to wait for like 20 to 30 minutes to even get in the building or something because, you know, the guy was petty. But he's petty but not confrontational, which is why when you say, well, the bumpy ride, who's going to be leading the bumpy ride? Donald Trump can't even handle the frickin' kiddie coasters. Okay? And what I mean by that is that he's a coward. And you're like, whoa, how can you say that? Well, if let's say what you say is true, that Biden stole the election or some cabal of Democrats stole the election, and Donald Trump walked out the back door. And by the way, on the 6th, he told his audience, I'm going to go down there to the frickin' Capitol with you. Guess what he didn't do? He didn't go down to the Capitol with him, did he? He went back to the White House and said, oh, I love you beautiful people, go home. Ooh, right? To the left, they're probably very thankful that he's a coward. They're probably very thankful that he didn't push any harder than he was willing to, which was not very hard. But to the right wing, I would say this. Every time you tell me that Donald Trump had the election stolen from him, I would tell you this. Well, he let it get stolen from him, didn't he? Because he walked out the door, right? All you guys talk about defending your property all the time. Donald Trump wouldn't even do that, right? And if he wouldn't do it for himself, which he would be doing it for himself if he was trying to if he was trying to maintain his alleged presidency, who would he stand up for? And if he won't even stand up for himself, why should he stand up for the American people? He's a terrible president. He won't. If he's not going to stand up for himself, he's not going to stand up for us. He's not going to stand up for you. So that's my take on that. And I don't know why people in the media, mainstream media, don't just flat out ask Republican people who say, well, the election was stolen from Trump, because they say that to get their base angry. That's the only reason they say it, is to get people in the right wing angry, to give into their hate, give into their anger and strike them down. Do it. That's why they're doing it, is to play on your emotions. That's the only reason they say it, because there's no grain of truth of it. If there was a grain of truth of it, that means that Donald Trump is a coward because he didn't stay behind and fight. He wants you to fight for him. He's not going to fight for himself. So he wants to use you as a puppet to fight for him because he's too cowardly to do it for himself. Okay? Unfollow me if you want. Racy, I don't care. Actually, you don't follow me anyway. But here's the thing. And that's the magic bullet. Mainstream media, you're welcome. Just ask them, hey, if Donald Trump did win, why did he leave the office? Why didn't he stand and fight like all his other followers fought for him, yet he ran away? Just ask that question in that manner. Trump will be done. Gone. Gone from, the right wing won't even talk about him anymore, eventually, right? He'll be like, oh, that is a good point, isn't it? So, yeah, that's my take on that. And by the way, I grew up in a conservative household. I grew up in that thing, and I don't hate my parents. They try their damnedest. The world's changing really fast, and they try really hard to, keep on keeping on. In spite of what, this pendulum swinging back and forth and all this and this stuff. So, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not about him being it's not about this whole concept of, it's because I'm a Republican, it's because you don't like Trump. No, it's because this thing here is bad. And you admitted that tweet is bad. And your other tweets they have other bad tweets as well. You got to clean out your closet a little bit. And maybe in 5 years, maybe if you get a little less racy in 5 years and you button it up and, look inside yourself and go, why was I afraid of those people in the Walmart? And maybe the reaction to that fear is like, when you're tweeting about those people in the Walmart and you go, so why was I afraid of those people in the Walmart? Because they were looking at me funny? Is that because people are looking at you funny, is that a reason to escalate it to needing a firearm? Those kind of questions. You need to ask yourself those kind of questions. Because, by the way, if those black people in the Walmart did anything worse than looking at you funny, you would have tweeted about it. And you would have said, why I hate those black people is because one of them assaulted me, one of them robbed me, one of them did all this and that and the other thing. And you would have damned their entire race because one of them wronged you in a Walmart. But all you have is that they looked at you funny. And your response to that fear is not to question that fear and maybe mitigate that fear and go, maybe my fear wasn't based on rationality, maybe it was based on something else. You know, maybe you've already made that growth. Maybe my words are redundant. But what I can say is that it's not because you're a Republican or a Trump supporter that people have a problem with these words. It's because they have a problem with these words on their own. And by the way, social media and furry fandom will point out those things. I've had social media, slam me for, getting things wrong, right? I did a whole video on that. And they don't, I don't wear my politics on my sleeve, and I certainly don't let politics puppeteer me into my beliefs or ideologies, so I don't really like putting on the labels, because as soon as you have the label on, then people can make whatever assumptions they want about you as a person. They can basically put you into whatever little box that makes them the most comfortable. So I try to avoid doing that at all costs. But when I say make mistakes and I do bad research, people will, say it. And I don't go, it's because of my ideology, isn't it? It's because I'm a centrist. By the way, centrist is an ideology. But calling yourself a centrist means that you agree that there's a left wing and that there's a right wing and that these are natural occurring phenomena instead of a humanly created thing that has no business existing. I'm too eccentric to be a centrist, damn it. Anyways, I'm an eccentricist. Whatever the heck that means. But then someone will say, well, an eccentricist is just these guys aren't all that hot either, and blah blah blah. So it's just a cycle. So I won't get into that. But basically, if people are criticizing you, don't think it's because of a label, and don't use that label as a defensive mechanism, because then you're going to get together with your other ists and then go, look at these people bullying me because I'm an ist. No, it's because I'm an ist, man. Right? It's nonsense. It's always been nonsense. So there's that, and as long as you keep doing that, you're never going to change. Just FYI. If you keep on coddling yourself with your label of, your republicanisms or your progressivisms or whatever, you're just going to never change. Or never evaluate the things in front of you and make proper decisions. Just FYI. You'll let other people make your decisions for you, which is why you like electing other people to make your decisions for you. Anyways, that aside, obviously you can't do everything, so obviously having people in charge is important. Get out there and vote. So the other thing was, God, what was the second thing? There was a second thing. Oh yeah, Pepper Coyote. You remember that guy that, another example instead of myself, being criticized on the internet and then going, oops, my bad, I did something wrong, and then let me change that up. You did this one here where the guy you went after, Pepper Coyote, the guy you tried to get removed from those conventions because of his celebrating the death of Rush Limbaugh. A lot of furries might not have gone, made a wah voice at him other than yourself here, and maybe some other right-wing furs. But here, let me give you this. Remember, you probably remember when Pepper Coyote jumped the line to get that vaccine? And then basically, when people started criticizing him for jumping the line to get that vaccine, Pepper Coyote kind of doubled down and said, well, we gotta try to get ours because It's every man, like, it sort of kind of felt like an every man for himself kind of a thing, and then he ended up having to walk that back. They criticized, it's like, they didn't stop and go, oh, well, he's a lefty socialist. It's okay when he does it. When he jumps the line, that's okay. We're okay with that. And by the way, Pepper Coyote didn't go, it's because I'm a socialist, isn't it, that I can't jump the line in the vaccine thing and you guys are holding me accountable because I'm a socialist. You know, he didn't do that. After trying to fight the fight, and after a while he talked to other people and he's like, okay, I effed up by trying to promote people jumping the line for vaccines before they were allowed to a few months ago, right? Because it was only open to elderly people or people who are, immunocompromised. So everybody is held accountable in the long run. It's not just you. The world's not just being mean to you and picking on you because you're Republican. They're doing what they normally do, which is evaluating words, criticizing words, doing things. It's a very human thing to do. And here's the thing. People you either take those words or you don't, right? You either take those words and change for the better, or you don't believe that that's a change for the better, or you have no interest in changing. You can't dictate what a person does in the future. You can only advise. And my advice, if you do want to try to change and become better, then, calm it down a little bit, evaluate yourself. Obviously, I'm not going to say things like, get racial sensitivity or whatever. The issue is you go racial sensitivity training. All right, well, how do I be less about a racist thing? Because it's kind of like alcohol, right? It's like alcohol. Racism is like alcohol. If you say, well, what I said was racist, but I'm not racist, as long as you don't realize that you have racial insensitivities and that you're behaving in a racist manner, as long as you can't acknowledge that, you can't change it. It's like being an alcoholic. If you can't admit to yourself that you are in a rut and that you're going through a vicious cycle where you're killing your liver and doing what To the Ranty Griffin did and went, I have a problem, look at this frickin' thing I'm holding and I drink too frickin' much. As long as you cannot admit that to yourself, as long as you can't admit that you have that problem, that you have that issue or that it is an issue, that you're not going to improve. And sometimes you got to be really hardcore. You have to say, I'm not drinking anything. I'm not no beers, no nothing. Cold, right? And if you're going to try, if you do confirm yourself that you have racist issues and tendencies, you need to cut off organizations and groups that are going to allow you to say those epithets freely, that are not without criticism. Because if you don't allow yourself to be criticized for those words, then you're going to use them as if they're okay with everybody. It's going to slip out. It's like when you say F-bombs and Q-bombs and B-bombs and F-bombs and N-bombs and all these other words, eventually you're going to say it in the wrong company, right? So you try to do that kind of thing. You try to use your speech in a more poignant manner. And then you can say controversial things without causing too much of a ruckus because you're saying it in an articulate manner, right? And you're saying it without pissing off random groups of people because you're using words that are verboten, right? You'll thank yourself for it. It's like a good exercise. It's like verbiage exercise. It's like joke exercise. It's like try to make people laugh without being racist. It's a challenge. All right. But anyways, you have my final bit on this is that for anyone else, don't worry about this too much. If you're not a dick or a racist or do racist humor or racist things online, you're probably not going to be. Conventions are probably still not going to send you Dear Racy letters, Dear Racy Raccoon letters, right? So don't let people get you upset or fear-mongered about that this is going to become a common thing. It's only as common as people who are foolish enough to behave racy online, which is less and less people, because more and more people are realizing that social media and the internet is no longer the confessional booth that it used to be, or the place where you get all the demons out, or share the demons with each other in open forums and things like that. And if you do it anonymously, right? And hopefully you're not doing it to cause other people harm. You're doing it to get it off your chest and get it out in a healthy manner, all the toxic stuff, and then just throw it in the ether. But you don't need a forum to do that. You can just do that with a Word document and just like go, look at me, I did that, look at this, I sent it, and like pretend that the old internet can see it. And then you're like, ha, I said those things. And there's better, using social media to do that kind of stuff is not going to be turned a blind eye to anymore. That is what the message here is. So just be aware of that. And if you're doing that, then just do that. Now, for Racy here, he's got an appeal in 5 years. If he does change and does do that for the better, and I gave him advice on how to do that. First, admit that you have a problem. Second, get away from people who are going to encourage you to maintain that problem. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be hard efforts, but you've got to do it. Only you can do it. You can't rely on other people to do it for you, right? You were utilized. You were used by politicians to. Your emotions were used and abused by politicians in order to make you afraid of the fact that they're not going to be in power anymore. And that tactic failed in the long run, and he had to basically abandon that. And now that person you looked up to is probably ratting on his friends like Rudy Giuliani and all those other things, and that's why you see all this kind of stuff happening right now. I think Donald Trump is being a cooperative witness. I think so. That's just my opinion, though. That's my thought on that. Anyways, that was a long and rambling video, but I thank you guys very much for going through with me on that. There was a lot to cover, a lot of different angles on it, and I kind of just threw it together in a hodgepodge, as I normally do. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. What do you think about? What's your opinion on the decision by the board of Texas Furry Fiesta? Do you think that this is going to be a more common thing where people's social media behaviors are going to be more scrutinized by individuals within these organizations as to whether or not they would want people to be members there? I think my personal take on that is I think that in this time where attendance is going to probably be limited because of coronavirus and recovering from the coronavirus and like putting caps on attendees and stuff like that. I think boards are going to be a little more giving of these like please don't show up letters, just to particular very problematic individuals on the internet, because they can only have a limited number of people during these first 30 years, and they're not worried about growth. They're worried just about maintaining a healthy space and making sure that the people who go to them are not going to try to circumvent the rules or do any of these things just to be a rebel and risk getting people infected. Because think about it, coronavirus is just an STI, but if you don't wear it, but you don't even have to have sex. Freaking sucks, man. At least STIs have the decency to make you force close contact. These freaking pandemics are just like, no, you just talk to somebody and you get me. Asexuals are like, what the fuck? It's supposed to can't all diseases just be based on contact of the hibbity dibbity? It made my life so much easier. Anyways, Getting off on another tangent. Just need a palate cleanser. Anyways, hopefully better content next week. Hopefully better topic next week. Hopefully I get out of the rut of talking about the dog. Instead, we'll talk about good things. Maybe. Hopefully. We'll see you next week.